And what intrigued him that when people got infected with HIV, and which was considered a death sentence at the time, and still it is, but what he noticed that the body will get infected with HIV, but body will also make millions of copies to kill it. And the body will not make any antibodies until the immune system of the body fails, then you start developing antibodies. So isn't that amazing? So that's when I read that, I said, oh my God, body has amazing intelligence, but we just need to tap into that. Hi, this is Dr. Virender Sodhi. People come to me with inflammation and they have tried many different things, but they have tried diet change, they have tried organic food, but they are still inflamed. We have a wonderful opportunity to have Dr. Leena Sripada. It's a Sanskrit name, which is a beautiful name. I am very fond of Leena. She is a student and she has done same degree as me, naturopathic physician. She went from at the Toronto College, if I'm not wrong, of naturopathic medicine, and she also studied Ayurvedic medicine on the side. And we have met a few times on the different conferences, and I'm really inspired by her book, which she wrote. And so I think I will let her open that chapter of the book, and we'll go from it. So, can you talk about the Ayurvedic perspective of inflammation?
Yeah. So, like you said, a lot of people are coming nowadays with, trying to eat well, exercise, they're doing all the things right. But why is inflammation such a hot topic now? Why is it so common? And Ayurveda looks at inflammation in many different aspects. And we're not only focused about the food. It's not just about anti-inflammatory foods. We also look at many other aspects, right? Ayurveda is a system of medicine which understands, how the environment and how the macrocosm also impacts our own inner environment in many different ways. So inflammation is not just about the food that we're eating, but it's also about how we're processing our emotions, our experiences, our stress, our deadlines, our work pressure, our relationships, and how do we digest and process that.
Yes.
And when you're not processing that, that often leads to fire in the body.
Yeah.
This leads to inflammation. It shows up in many ways.
Yeah. What you're saying is so true. Many years ago, I think maybe 20 plus years ago, I was doing research on anger. And so I was very surprised to find that people who are angry has an elevated level of C-reactive protein and homocysteine. Just the standalone inflammation by anger. And Ayurveda has said that for centuries and centuries, that when you are angry, you're making chemicals, and those chemicals are harmful to us. And so I think what you're pointing is very, very true. So
that is absolutely correct.
Yeah, so that's actually wonderful. So can you take us, how the different body types will take this inflammation in their bodies?
Sure, let's talk through it, right? So when we look, Ayurveda looks at not just the physical body, the symptoms, it looks at the pattern in the body, but also in our actions, in our mind, and how we experience our day-to-day. So when we look at inflammation, there are definitely patterns of people that are more prone to showing inflammation. We'll get into that. That can be shown also scientifically. But I'll walk you through three main personality types that are more prone to inflammation. Number one is the achiever, or you could comment as the overachiever. This is the doer, the person who drives towards getting things done and feeling productive. Accomplishment is what drives them. And if they rest or they slow down, it actually feels like failure for them.
Yeah.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think we need to see these are not, even inflammation is not good or bad, it's needed in the body.
Yes.
But it's needed at the time, and when it's needed, it needs to come down. So like you said, right, we can probably all relate to this, the achiever, the overdoer. This is a drive, this is amazing force, right? Mm-hmm. This force of pitta is what gets things done. And these are often the people that are most successful. They are often, advanced in their careers, they're very organized. But the problem is when it becomes too much. When that fire becomes too much, now that drive to success leads to burnout. It comes at a cost of the body.
Exactly.
The body will always start showing symptoms.
Yeah.
You can push, you can ignore, but it's going to start showing up.
What you said is so true. What I tell my patient is like, you're driving the car, but your tires are spinning too fast for you. You cannot handle that. Because, if you have a very powerful car, which is a pitta, very powerful, now you're driving your car, the tires are spinning too fast, and you want to go even more faster. Certainly, it's burning the tires.
Burning the tires, yeah, definitely. And often it will show up only, when we crash, when we hit the wall. That's usually when people actually notice that they've hit that, right?
Yeah.
So the achiever, the overdoer, that's one type. The second type is the perfectionist. Who else can relate to this? So these are the people that are very analytical. There's this constant internal pressure to achieve. And that bar to achieve is often something that they've set themselves. And the body becomes under a constant low-grade stress. It's not because of a deadline or a meeting. Sometimes this is more internally driven. They're often self-critical or judgmental, comparing themselves to others, not feeling like they've met the mark. And there's this pressure to perform.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's anxiety underneath that as well. So that's the perfectionist.
Yeah, they're never satisfied what they achieve. That's what I tell people. Just gratitude is a very amazing thing. What you have, you should be very thankful for that. But we can all have that, but it doesn't serve you in health wise.
For sure.
Yeah.
And setting those standards. For some people, those are standards that they grew up with. Their parents wanted them to be, top marks or whatever it was, right? And then that has now continued on into their life beyond that.
Yeah.
So the perfectionist definitely will be more prone to inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
The third type is one of the things that I've termed as the driven caregiver. A lot of women in family situations can also relate to this, this quality. This is the duty towards taking care of others. It's a responsibility, it's the ability where we cannot say no to someone else's needs. And typically, these are the people that are absorbing other people's emotions, other people's stresses, and it's quietly depleting them. So they're running on empty, trying to take care of the kids, trying to take care of the family, of the parents or the in-laws, or the people around them, that they have a sense of duty towards that. But it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
These are often the people that are now too tired to do their self-care, too tired to take their supplements, too tired to cook a proper meal, but they'll do that for everybody else.
That's
this
true.
is really important to acknowledge. A lot of, not just women, but I generalize that women are often in this situation. And for a lot of women, it only hits them like when they're in 20s and 30s and they can run on the caffeine and they can run on the adrenaline, they're okay. But it usually hits around perimenopause or menopause. Where now the body says enough is enough.
Yeah.
This is where all of those issues really start to surface now.
Yeah.
So it's important to acknowledge, if you relate to any of these categories, these are types that you are going to be more prone to inflammation if you don't take care of it.
Yeah. So, can you explain a lot of this very common, especially for pitta-driven people, they wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning. And there's a lot of books written on this project, which is also a lot of entrepreneurs are in this category. They wake up 3 a.m. and they have a hard time sleeping back. So what do you think Ayurveda says about it?
Right. No, I think so many people we talk to recognize they fall asleep, they're okay, they wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. And it's like clockwork.
Yeah.
And it's almost scary how on the dot it is for some people, regularly. Now, in a lot of the modern medicine, there is talk out there, which I'm sure you're aware of, about cortisol, about blood sugar dips and all of those, and that's definitely part of it. But from the Ayurvedic lens, that 2 a.m. window is where we're shifting from the pitta time of the day into the vata time of the night.
Exactly.
When that transition happens, if pitta is high and you've been on the go at nighttime, your body's working on overdrive because in the daytime it didn't have the time or energy to do all of that.
Yeah.
Nighttime is the time it needs to catch up. If that pitta is high, transitioning into the vata phase, now that's the time when the body is going to be alert and wake up, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I think people may not understand this. Our body is constantly going through vata, pitta, and kapha phase, starting from morning to in the other morning. So every 4 hours we're changing the segments of it and how the things are changing in your body, and which is in the Sanskrit we call pahar, or a specific segment of that time. And so as we change the timing, our hormones are changing, our digestive fire is changing, and this is what we're talking about here.
And coming back to the blood work, the question about how does this show up in the body, right? Can this be measured, right? Is this just pseudoscience? Ayurveda, is it just, something about tongue and pulse? You can look at the tongue, you can look at the pulse, you can look at somebody, you can tell if they are prone to pitta imbalance, vata imbalance, kapha imbalance. But when we're looking at the blood work can tell as well. That's where it gets really interesting because, like you said, CRP can show up as elevated. And ESR and some of these markers can actually track inflammation.
That's right.
And this is where we know where it's not just personality or just a thought, it's actually manifesting in the body. And those symptoms of you waking up or whatever those symptoms are, now they're going to tap on your door If you're not listening, it's going to tap louder and louder
Yeah.
till you have a health issue.
So now once you recognize, what these things are, so what things they should do, what they need to do to balance it out. Because everything science is about balance, it's not putting one supplement in your pocket, and because we talk about the lifestyle changes, meditation, yoga, breathing, exercise, walking, going to bed at on time, and the food. Ahar-vihar is the one word in Ayurvedic medicine. So ahar is your food, and your air is also food, by the way. Water is also food, and the vihar is your lifestyle. How you lay out your day in front of you, and that can make you happy or that can make you sad, irritable, angry, frustration, fearful, and all those kind of stuff.
Correct. So, the universe is all about balance, right? And in traditional Chinese medicine, they look at it from the concept of yin and yang. If you have too much of the yang, the yin is going to be depleted. So in Ayurveda as well, it's all about the balance. It's not about doshas or pitta being bad or whatever. It's about what is the correct balance for you, for your specific type. That's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
So when you know that somebody's pitta is high and they are prone to inflammation, it might manifest in some of the symptoms like feeling too hot or getting very hangry, at meal times, might show up as reflux or high blood pressure, skin flare up. So these are just some of the symptoms that give the indication, right?
Yeah.
But now what do we do about it? I think a lot of us, we're in an age of, there's so much information out there. Like people can Google, people can look, people are talking about cortisol, insulin resistance, they're talking about these things, but where the gap is how do we actually act on them? What do we do about it? We know we need to exercise, but what do we do about it? Yeah. So that's where Ayurveda comes in and says, looks at your body type, looks at the seasons, looks at what's out of balance, and then looks at a plan, how to support that. Yes, through the diet, yes, through the lifestyle, yoga, meditation, but also through understanding your tendencies, understanding your nature, and doing things that help cool you down. You had mentioned about anger, right? This is very common in Pitta type people. They feel that emotion very quickly. So it's not about not feeling the anger, but when Pitta is raising, what are things that you can do to cool down? For example, just taking a break, 5 minutes, stepping out, walking outside. Or one of my favorite things is a little rose mist, the rose essence, just taking a little spritz of that. Yeah. Instantly calms you down, cools you down. Yeah,
my grandma used to say that drink cold water, it's like a very simple, but you're drinking cold water, all of a sudden it's that the burst of that anger changes and sublimes into a completely different model.
And for parents who are raising kids, right, I see this in my own kids, they're getting angry and agitated. Sometimes you can just give them a snack that will cool them down. It sounds so simple. Some cut up cucumbers, some watermelon, something that they can immediately eat that cools and calms them down. You'll see their mood will shift right away.
Yeah. Plus, there is a natural instinct in all of us. There was a Discovery Channel documentary about the doctrine in the mother nature, and they were showing that certain kind of lemur monkeys, they eat a lot of poisonous centipedes, but it can kill them. So what they do, they also eat dirt. So what happens, the dirt binds onto the poison, but they still get the protein content. So I think Mother Nature has all the intelligence there. We just need to seek it. Because I come from a Himachal Pradesh where these goat herders, they don't have a compass, by the way. And they sense the wind. They smell the wind, actually. That's what they exactly say. And they say, okay, we need to go in this direction, we'll be safer in that direction. There were very simple rules and regulations they have created. And otherwise they have thousands of these goat and sheep will die under blizzard and their livelihood is all gone. So I think we don't use our senses too often.
Ayurveda is all about that, just coming back to your innate intelligence.
Yeah.
When I work with people that have no background in Ayurveda, they haven't studied or learned anything, but if you ask them some questions of what feels right when you feel a certain way, they actually know the answer. A lot of people actually, if you tune in, you will know what is best for you.
That's right.
But the problem, there's too much chaos, there's too much information, there's too much cloudiness. We're not seeing things clearly. Yeah. Ayurveda has looked at this for thousands of years.
Yeah. Leena, you wrote a book. Can you explain your book title and why did you write this book?
Sure. I'm very excited. It's my first launch. I've never written a book before. I've written many blogs and magazine articles. But this book that I just launched called Cool the Fire, Your Ayurvedic Summer Survival Guide. This started as an idea to help patients with practical roadmap to understand how to incorporate Ayurveda in simple daily diet personality ways to make sense for what they need. So it started off as a small project, it grew, and then I brought in some of the, modern medicine and understanding inflammation and some of those aspects, and then a little bit of aspect of recipes. But one of the core aspects of the book is self-assessments and quizzes, understanding what type you are, what personality type, based on, what we spoke about, and ways of tracking how you can cool down, tracking how you can integrate some of these things in a very practical way. And there's also these stories of the personalities. And this is a little bit of a creative side, right? Where a lot of people are tired of having a do list and to-do and a don't list, what to eat, what not, just lists. And sometimes those Ayurvedic traditional books have amazing depth, but they don't work for the practical day-to-day people that just need to understand it quickly. So these stories explain certain characters, the analytical perfectionist, the advocate, the overachiever, and they go through kind of a typical day, and it explains, how their day goes through, what are they experiencing, what are their tendencies, and a lot of us can recognize ourselves in those personalities. And then it goes through what are some of the things that they can do to cool down, to calm down, a lot of practical tips. So that is the book in a nutshell.
It's like back home, it was a common thing to change the food habits as you slip from spring to summer, summer to fall, fall to winter. The food habits entirely changes. And nowadays, our food is same. We are still eating same hamburger every day, in and out. There is no change in the food. And Mother Nature is very intelligent. So look at this one, the weather is hot. So what we have available is the watermelons and melons and juicy fruits, which has which provides us a lot of hydration. Cucumbers, cooling in nature. Watermelon, cooling in nature. And as we slip into fall, then we get nuts and seeds, which is a heating energy, has a more protein, more good oil. So if we just follow the simple laws of Mother Nature is already telling you what to do. So we don't even, look at that one. So basically, I think what I'm saying here is, inflammation is just a communication. Your body is trying to tell you what we need to do. And when we listen to it carefully, we just tune into it, our body will also design a treatment for that automatically. I want to quote here Dr. David Ho, who was the pioneer in HIV treatment. I don't know if you have read his work ever. And he was very much interested in HIV from his college days when he was in pre-med, and then he went to medical school, and his interest grew in it. And what intrigued him, that when people got infected with HIV, and which was considered a death sentence at the time, and still it is, but what he noticed, that the body will get infected with HIV, but body will also make millions of copies to kill it. And the body will not make any antibodies until the immune system of the body fails, then it starts developing antibodies. So isn't that amazing? So that's why when I read that, I said, oh my God, body has the amazing intelligence, but we just need to tap into that one. And how we tap into it? Just follow the laws of Mother Nature. In Ayurvedic medicine, we have very simple rules. Go for a walk, do the deep breathing exercise, reset yourself with your meditation. If you are stressed out, take a deep breath. If you are angry, take a cooling breath. We have a Shitali pranayama. We have actually, for everything, we have some small, very small, practical things which everybody can do there. So I think, just to Mother Nature provides us the wonderful solution. We need to listen to it, and we should be all healthy and happier. Thank you, Dr. Leena Sripada, for coming on to our podcast. I know our audience will be enlightened with your wonderful work you have done. And we are looking forward to a lot more to come in near future. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it, Dr. Sodhi. This has been a really fun conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.